Let's go to our last question. Upstate Pats fan writes, and I believe this is upstate New York, I believe. And this is a Twitter question. And you can find both of us on Twitter at Cliff Schecter, at Matt L. Robison. I'm a 55-year-old male that pretty much plays it down the middle in politics. Almost never meet any self-admitted Trump supporters. The hardcore MAGA fans seem to be a fringe minority, but Trump always does well in the polls. Why won't folks openly admit their support for Trump? I have an answer. I have a proposed answer for you here. Thank you very much for the question, Upstate Pats fan. I think the most likely thing going on here is geographic sorting. For all the focus we've given in politics on gerrymandering, deservedly, one thing that does seem to be happening is that people are voting with their feet and they are tending to sort themselves into political tribes by geography. So of the nation's total of 3,143 counties, we have that many counties for some reason. The number of what are defined as super landslide counties, that means a county where a presidential candidate won at least 80% of the vote, has jumped from 6% in 2004 to 22% in 2020. So what we're seeing is more and more places in America where it's not just like strongly for blue or red, but like an absolute crush where you might actually feel socially really awkward about admitting that you're a Trump person in a sea of Democrats. Another way of putting this, by the way, I love this statistic, is that Joe Biden in 2020 won 85% of the counties that had a Whole Foods and only 32% of the counties with a Cracker Barrel. Let me just give you one other set of numbers, and then Cliff, you should jump in. The number of districts, okay, in which there is a Democrat representing the district in the House of Representatives, and that district voted for the Republican for president, or vice versa. We're talking about split congressional districts. It was 86 districts in the year 2000. 22 years later, in 2022, it was down to 23. There are 5 districts represented by Democrats that voted for Trump in the last election and 18 represented by Republicans. So my sense is that the most likely thing is that more and more people are living in these kinds of places. The other thing that could be going on is there's such a thing as a shy Trump voter. There's a little bit of evidence about that maybe there are people out there who don't like to admit publicly that they're in favor of Donald Trump because he is an intergalactic asshole. But the evidence is mixed on that. And I'm speaking scientifically, of course.
Yes, always scientifically. I think there's probably a little bit of that playing into it. I think there's 2 other things. John Dean of Watergate fame, when asked, would Richard Nixon have survived if Fox News existed back then, said yes, he would have. If there had been a conservative infrastructure, which, by the way, is why Roger Ailes was obsessed initially with what he created something really stupid, like right-wing news. I don't even remember what it was. And he would send out, yes, folks, these existed back then, videotapes to different news stations to try to get their spin included in local news. Eventually, it became Fox. There's simply no doubt, which is why I talk so much about why we need an upgraded understanding of the First Amendment in an age where disinformation travels so rapidly and can destroy us. The wholesale lies. Look, Fox was just sued again by this guy, Ray Epps, who actually was a Trump voter, and there on January 6th. And they tried to make it out like he was an FBI plant and kept saying it about him to the point of where he feels defamed. I would think being an FBI plant would be better than what he actually was. But I'm glad he's suing Fox News for $500 million. They still got the Smartmatic suit. This was always the way to go after these guys, to sue them into oblivion. And folks, when you have the weapons grade propaganda, and I'm not just saying that as a phrase, this is PSYOP stuff. This is stuff we developed during World War II. These channels like manipulating visually emotional images, symbols around, and doing the same with what they say and messaging constantly and repeating. From Fox to Breitbart to talk radio, we have let the right get away with this. We did a video the other day on the MAGA granny, which is what they call her. And she spoke about how she stepped away from this crazy MAGA movement, which she considers a cult, took full responsibility for the fact that she was in Capitol Hill on January 6th, served 60 days in prison. She's older, she's a cancer survivor. But man, was she terrific in condemning Trump and condemning them and saying they lied to her, they fooled her. And I don't think I'm trying to take away responsibility from people for how they acted. I'm not. But I'm just making a point. There are people that literally do not know the truth. That's one big thing. The second big thing, friends who work in Gen Z politics, that they don't answer these polls. And these polls end up not being accurate. And we've seen that again and again. We didn't have polls showing a 7-point gap maybe in that Wisconsin important Supreme Court race, and the Democrat won by 11. We're being undercounted in numerous of these races. It is important to remember that we're being undercounted in these things because we have folks that not only don't answer, I mean, they don't even have home phones and whatever. They're not answering cell phone calls from these guys, and they don't want to participate in it. I would argue that the shy Trump voter plus the Fox News propagandized voter, plus the Gen Zer not showing up, means that Trump is artificially inflated by a number of points and is not really as well liked as it shows up in those polls.
On that note, I think we should get at it. This has been a great mailbag. Keep the comments coming. You can find us, Blue Amp channel on YouTube, of course, as part of the Beyond Politics podcast. And don't forget to check us out on Patreon. Again, it's in the show notes. All right, for Cliff, I'm Matt Robison. We will see you soon.
Thanks, guys.